Essentially, the question is what part of the chart is representative of somebody's body. So I think that when we first start learning about the body in astrology, we learn that Aries is the head, Taurus is the throat, Gemini is like the shoulders and the lungs, Cancer is the chest and the stomach, Leo is the heart, etc., etc. And I've never really gotten along with that interpretation that well because there are a lot of anecdotes that actually make sense when it comes to certain signs, like Aries being the head is like one of the most obvious ones. And then Scorpio's obviously like the things like that. But I don't necessarily think that every sign matches up super well with that. Like Aquarius being the ankles, that system of understanding the body is kind of weird to me. So I would say like a good few years ago, what really started to make sense to me was that if the sun is your soul or your essence, where every other thing in the entire chart revolves around that, that is not necessarily a physical thing. But if your moon is your instincts and your emotions and your urges, then the moon would be more representative of your physical body. And I have found that looking at the moon to see sort of the gist of what's going on in somebody's body is very accurate. But as time went on, I learned that there's even more to it than that because obviously Saturn is your bones and all of the things that are very solid in your body, your teeth. Saturn is the more solid parts of your body, but the moon is the more fluid parts of your body, like hormones and blood. An astrologer from the 4th century, whose name I can't pronounce, said the moon is the moist planet, the belly and the moisture of the body. So, as far back as then, they were saying the moon sort of governs over the belly, all of the liquid parts. But then, if you get even more nuanced, you start to learn things like Mercury being the messenger. Mercury is very associated with the nervous system, and that's why they say Geminis and Virgos have a lot of nervous energy, right? From my experience, I've seen that people who have a lot of sixth house placements and a lot of Virgo placements have kind of a lot of health issues because they hold a lot of tension in their body. But those health problems can show up in a lot of different areas of their body. It's not just confined to one single part of their body. So that kind of makes you think the sixth house is a place where there's a lot of indicators about what's going on in the body as well. So as for the first house, it's kind of obvious and everyone knows that your ascendant shows your appearance. But I think that that appearance is more associated with sort of the energy that you give off, the vibe that people get from you, and then of course some physical features. But I don't think that that goes deep into your body and all of the mechanisms that are going on inside of you. It's more so an outward appearance. So you see, you start to get into a lot of different moving parts. Saturn being the structure, the moon being the liquids, Mercury being the neural transmission. So if Mercury is the neural transmission, then Mars is like the muscular response to that transmission. Those are kind of the basic things that I've learned over the years. Then there's little stuff like Leo is heavily associated with hair, but when you go through the list of like I was talking about earlier, Aries equals the head. Leo is supposed to be the heart. It doesn't really say anything about the hair in that original system, but yet we all know Leo is kind of associated with hair. So it's just, there are so many different moving parts that correspond to different parts of your body. It's almost as if it's like, what parts of the chart don't show something about your physical body? I would say the sun or maybe Jupiter, but then they say Jupiter can cause a person to be larger based on where it's placed and stuff like that because it's about indulgence and stuff. And so I just feel like there's so many different moving parts. But the basic framework that I understand and pay attention to right now is that the moon really can show some overall stuff. Saturn is the bones, Mercury is the nervous system, and then Mars is oftentimes associated with muscles. But it's always sort of changing and evolving. Like, I've learned a lot about the body in the past few years because I kind of approach the chart from more of a conceptual place in general. I don't really focus a lot on physicality, but I'm trying to integrate that into my work and the way that I interpret people's charts.